Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express Recruiting Show. I'm Billy Embody. Happy Monday. We did not get to a recruiting show last week, so we are back on our Monday slot. We are also going to drop another one Friday, breaking down the recruiting weekend that is ahead for SMU as they do take on Louisville. So they'll have plenty of prospects in town. We do all that and more on this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency, which starts right now.
Remember when your biggest worry was finding parking at Dallas Hall? Now it's protecting your home, your car, maybe even that first business. That's where Northwest Insurance Agency comes in. Exclusive coverage designed by Mustangs for Mustangs who've galloped into the real world. Protect what you've built and move forward with confidence, because once a Mustang, always moving forward.
Northwest Insurance.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Recruiting Show. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for watching us. Appreciate our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency, Mark Villasana, of course, for sponsoring the show and all the things we do at On the Pony Express podcast. But of course, we got to send a special shout out to our friends at Horn Legend. Guys, not to brag, not a big deal, right? But was out with some friends this weekend and, of course, was wearing one of the pullovers. Actually, this pullover, I washed it for you guys just in time for this show, the Pony Up pullover from our friends at Horn Legend. And one of my friends said, "Hey, what is that? I need it." And I said, "Well, I've got you covered. HornLegend.com. Use code PONY for free shipping. HornLegend.com. Visit them today, and you can check out their entire line of SMU gear. They just dropped the new the new vest for the ladies as well. Check it out right there if you're watching on YouTube. The vests that have come out in time for Christmas. It's pricey stuff, don't get me wrong, but you save on free shipping. And of course, if you went down the path of getting one of their SMU branded items, and you get the ones with the children's health designs on it, you can support children's health as well with those purchases. So a great collaboration there. They've got tons of items: hoodies, quarter zips, jackets, vests, and more. Make sure you visit Horn Legend today. Perfect time to get all hooked up with some fresh gear ahead of the holidays, ahead of basketball season, heating up as well for SMU. So we appreciate our friends at Horn Legend for sponsoring the recruiting show. That is the lead sponsor for the show on the recruiting front. So we try to give you guys the Monday show every single week. Again, travel kind of threw a wrench in it. And so we wanted to go ahead and wait until we were back in the studio with our full disposal of abilities to bring you guys the recruiting show. So we're back on track here. Appreciate you guys for watching. This is the time of year where we're going to see SMU kind of poke around. You'll probably see them mentioned with some prospects that may end up coming for the Louisville game. Everybody knows at this point, if you're a recruitnik covering or following SMU, that Max Wright, the big Melissa offensive tackle, is one name that is out there. It's there to know. We will see if he makes it in for his official visit this weekend. If that happens, we'll keep you guys updated at ontheponyexpress.com. But of course, the playoff schedule is something that all these coaching staffs around the country have to work around this time of year. And Melissa did get a win last week, 41-10 over Colleyville Heritage. So he will be playing on this weekend, and they will face Andres at 7 p.m. on Friday night. So that is certainly a wrench in the plans if he does plan to make an official visit, or he can come in on Saturday and catch the 11 a.m. SMU Louisville game and do all the official visit things, and then be back home really easily on Sunday so he can get that final push. But SMU is going to be making a big push there for Max Wright. There's no question about it. The question we'll try to cover on Friday, of course, is, are there going to be any more flip targets that come to light? This is the time of year that programs around the country are calling up recruits saying, "Hey, are you good? Are you satisfied with where your rev share, where your NIL, your coaches, your program that you've committed to, are you satisfied with where they're at? And that is something that SMU has done a really nice job of fending off for their prospects and commitments that they have. It seems like everybody is locked in. It's recruiting, you never know. But at least right now, I've not been made aware of anybody being cut or anybody looking around. It seems like all is well with the Mustangs. And they spent the bye week really spending a lot of time, I think, talking with some of these 2027 prospects, making the push to get them on campus for this final home game for Louisville, getting some of these younger guys at 2028s, but also that final push for flip commitments or flip targets from other programs to get on campus. So we will see if we'll have any out there on Friday to talk about outside of Max Wright, who's committed to Texas. But if not, be sure to be subscribed to ontheponyexpress.com. It's just $1 for your first week. This is a great time to try us out. It is senior day on the Hilltop as well. So lots of coverage to come on the site. Really kind of going to overdrive this week with so much to talk about on the football side of things before they head to Cal for that final regular season contest. Final opportunity for recruiting this weekend to host prospects in Ford Stadium. So keep an eye on the site. But on the recruiting show, we've got a good bit to get to here. Going to kind of scatter shoot here. I want to focus on the 2027 defensive recruiting. And some of you might immediately go, click. That's a whole year and a half away or so from guys being signed, sealed, delivered. And guess what? The recruiting timeline is now sped up. Official visits will be here in April, in May, in June, before we all know it. And if you haven't gotten guys on campus to experience game day, you're kind of behind with some of these prospects that you've probably offered. So that is something to keep in mind when talking about 2027. You now look at the fall for so many of these prospects as the fall of their junior years as that time where you've got to make an early dent in recruitments. But here's the thing, and I want to kind of lay this out because there's been some top targets that haven't gone SMU's way. There have been some top targets that have gone on the run of visits here, visits there, including SMU, that at this current moment, there's so much uncertainty in those recruitments that maybe they aren't being talked about enough. Maybe they are players that SMU is a larger player for than people want to give credit for. Remember, last year, Drew Evers, this time of year, was just like he was in the summer when he ended up committing, being recruited by LSU, Ohio State, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, so many programs across the country. But he had visited SMU probably the most out of any school, but SMU wasn't being talked about as, a leader, the leader. But it was just kind of talked about as SMU needs to get Drew Evers because he's visited so many times, because he is a local kid, because it's a position that is a premium position and very difficult to look at. Remember, Evan Goodwin emerged as a prospect kind of during that run of visits. He had kind of swung through Dallas and SMU had made a move with him. And then all of a sudden he's officially visiting and committing. And so these recruitments, and if you go to ontheponyexpress.com, you can look at all the offers that are out. And you'll see some of them. They might say, such and such school has a 51% chance of landing that player. All of that will change over the coming months. These players are going to make more visits in January and first weekend of February before the dead period. They're going to make spring football visits. And these players are going to then have let's call it a resume for each school. And they're going to know, wow, I've experienced game day there. That's my vibe. I can see myself playing there. I like the way the coaches coach on game day. I've experienced hanging out with the players on a junior day. I've experienced seeing a practice. I've experienced X, Y, Z. Here are the questions I need answering still in my recruitment with said school. But that's okay. I'm going to get those maybe on an official visit because I like them more than enough to take an official visit there. There is a lot of jockeying that's going to go on. And there are also early commitments that we're going to see eventually fall off for some of these schools, whether it be a mutual parting of ways, whether it be the player being like, I rushed into this, probably need to open things up, or whether it be the school saying, hey, this isn't a fit. We like someone else here. Maybe they're recruiting over him, because it's still so early in this process that all of those things can happen. So keep that in mind. SMU sitting with this 2027 class. They've got their first commitment. They've got Malachi Ziegler, the 4-star quarterback. Now on the defensive side, and I've said this is the class that you want to see SMU take it up a notch. We've seen some of the prospects that SMU's gotten on the offensive side of the ball. We've seen them land some really high quality defensive players as well over the last couple of years. They've just not necessarily been as highly ranked. They've been a little on the shorter side, or they've been this, or they've been that. But man, you look at the guys that have played lately. Marky and Akor at linebacker making a sack against Boston College. Jalen Shivers seeing time against Boston College. You see some of the flashes there. You see Javion Holiday and Zay Gentry. You like the length and the size at corner. Tyron Polley's a household name after the Boston College game. So you're seeing them hit on some of these guys, at least in the early sense of, wow, we really like where things are going here. Then you need a Tyrone Winslow to pan out. Then you need some of these guys or that guys to kind of continue to pan out. Sael Reyes got an interception against Boston College. So there are players that SMU looks at on the defensive side that might not check all of the physical boxes, or might not be this, or might not be that. Like Tyron Polley is kind of similar to Ahmad Moses. Great high school football players. Not the biggest guy, not the this, not the that, not the 5-star on Duncanville in Tyron Polley's case, but a really strong, well-wired football player. And you're seeing why they were so high on him in the recruiting process. You look at somebody like Ahmad Moses. Would most people say, wow, we love Ahmad Moses, let's take him now? That's the crazy thing is, would Ahmad Moses, a flip from UTSA, be somebody that anybody would be excited about out of high school? Maybe not. But guess what? You don't have to be 6'2" to play safety in college football and be a great football player. Just ask Jonathan McGill and Ahmad Moses. So that's the thing that SMU staff, and they do this, elsewhere too, but defensively, it's different than the offensive side of the ball, I think, at least. When you look at, having the height or the this or the that to kind of be really good college football players. Marky and Akor is not the tallest guy in the world, and he's shown the flash at linebacker there. So when we talk about recruiting on the defensive side of the ball, because that's where I want to focus this podcast, and then next week, or maybe on Friday, if we don't have all sorts of prospects to talk about on the flip side of things with the Louisville game, we'll look at the offensive side. But when you look at the defensive side, and I wrote an in-depth story at ontheponyexpress.com on the defensive line and who they're recruiting and who they went and saw this bye week. And you can learn more about that at ontheponyexpress.com, a trio of names that Calvin Thibodeau was down to see at some point over the weekend. So keep an eye on that. But if you look at the defensive line and how SMU has an opportunity to really make a statement with this class, it's impressive. And I look at, the early, takeaways from defensive line recruiting, and I see a Dakota Dixon and Keith Doty, two highly offered guys coming in next year. And I'm thinking, okay, now you're kind of seeing the Wu Spencer, the Kevin Allen, the maybe Tyrone Winslow panning out long-term at the defensive tackle position. Then you have Keith Doty, Dakota Dixon up next. Maybe they finish out with a junior college defensive tackle edition in Tavion Atkinson. Maybe they can find a young portal guy to really groom and really kind of round out things on the defensive line to make this work. But what they need to do in 2027 is they've got to hit big on some of these prospects. And I broke those down at ontheponyexpress.com. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 4-star defensive tackles that SMU is pursuing. And there are multiple guys who are of the maybe not as highly rated, but highly recruited ranks that SMU is going toe-to-toe with some big names for. And I want to highlight one in particular because I have him being closely watched as far as if he makes a visit this weekend. And he could be your kind of nose tackle of the future. I've seen him, big body, probably heavier than what he's listed at. Amari Vickerson, 6'3", 260 pounds is what he's listed at. I think he's a little bit bigger than this. He is down there in the Houston area. And I'll give away a little bit here. He's one of the guys that Calvin Thibodeau went and saw this past weekend on the bye. And that says a lot. Says a lot about who he is recruiting, who he values, all of those things. So make sure you guys are on the site for sure. But when you look at Amari Vickerson, he's somebody that probably isn't talked about enough in terms of the state and what he brings to the table. I see him as somebody who is going to be more of that nose, hold the point of attack, control the line of scrimmage. And if you develop his body the right way, he can be a really strong force in the middle. And that's what SMU needs to find at the defensive tackle position. It's so critical that they start getting some of these guys from the high school ranks. So I'm keeping a close eye on Amari Vickerson. He's already visited SMU twice this year. Texas A&M, Texas Tech, TCU, and others continue to push hard for him. Texas Tech already has 2 committed defensive tackles in Jalen Brewster and Kadrian Redmond, 2 top SMU targets. Tech is recruiting at a strong level. Jalen Brewster goes to Cedar Hill. Joey McGuire, former Cedar Hill head coach, he's probably going to have his opportunity to say yes or no to just about every single Cedar Hill kid for years to come, as long as things are going well at Tech. Kadrian Redmond, kind of a tougher pill to swallow for SMU, missing on him. But again, 6 other defensive tackles of 4-star status that are sitting out there on their board, actively being recruited. And then you have a guy like Amari Vickerson, who they love. He's one of their top targets. And they have multiple other guys who are still sitting on the board that they're after. So I'm just going to say this. Keep an eye on Amari Vickerson. That is one to watch. That is somebody that SMU would love to get in the boat. And if they can get him in the boat early, that would be a nice building block for this defensive class long term. Again, go to ontheponyexpress.com and learn more about the defensive tackle position. Who doesn't like the defensive tackles and when they make plays for SMU? So they need to start getting them from the high school ranks and really developing them at a high level because we know what they can do with the defensive tackle position from the high school ranks. Do want to remind you guys as well about our friends at OPW Solutions. Make sure you guys head over to their website, opwsolutions.com. Learn more about what they can do for your business in today's day and age of the weather cooling down, maybe getting ahead on planning for the different weather we're going to see over the DFW area, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and more. They can have you covered. Commercial landscaping, power washing, snow and ice control, fence maintenance, even your Christmas lights and parking lot services. OPW Solutions can make all this happen for you. AJ Crow, an SMU alum, family-owned business, 214-444-2305, or email him, info@opwsolutions, for more on what he can do for you. So appreciate their support. The biggest solution for SMU on the defensive front is to elevate their defensive back recruiting. We see Tyron Polley coming down the pipeline. We see Sael Reyes making a play. Jalen Moses is another kind of Ahmad Moses-y type where he's undersized, but is just kind of a shot out of a cannon defensive back who can hit, who can make plays. We've seen him do that, and we've seen him get a little bit more burn over this season with some of the injuries like to Tyron Polley. He's earned more and more playing time as of late. So there's a type at safety. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big, beautiful 6'2", 225-pound safety who can run like the wind. It'd be really nice to have. That's what SMU would love to get. They have been dealt kind of a blow here with Jaquan Snell committing to Texas A&M. He is the number 3 safety on the Rivals rankings. He is the 45th overall prospect on the On3 industry ranking. He's the 5th best safety on the On3 industry ranking. He's somebody that SMU has recruited for a while. He made a bunch of visits. And A&M, I think, this is where you see sometimes, I think, seasons really make an impact. And you see Mike Elko's team break through. And it's answering a lot of questions for these Texas A&M targets where For years, it's been 8-4, 8-4, 8-4, and that's all you were going to get, and you were going to crater, and you were going to miss out on expectations. Texas A&M is answering the bell. SMU has shown that they can answer the bell, of course, get to the college football playoff. They can do all of these things. They got to the college football playoff before Texas A&M. But you see that atmosphere. You see what Texas A&M, of course, has to offer, and they reel in Jaquan Snell. I don't think anybody can blame them for the way they're playing right now. They're doing a really nice job recruiting the DFW area, as one would expect, and they get one of the best safeties in the country to commit. Now, where does SMU go from here? That's what we're mainly going to focus on with the trio of prospects we'll talk about. But Jaquan Snell commits to Texas A&M. He is somebody that has camped a bunch and spent a lot of time with the staff. So when I was asked earlier this fall, who are some of the guys that SMU has the best chance with, was Jaquan Snell. But it doesn't mean they're going to get Jaquan Snell. But he had been to campus a bunch. And look, maybe if A&M's 8-4 and doing its thing, maybe SMU has a better shot there. But right now, they're one of, if not, they're most certainly one of the hottest programs in the country. But they are backing it up on the field finally. So the Aggies are going to be tough to contend with. But at the same time, you can say two things can be true at once. Tough blow doesn't mean that SMU sucks and they're never going to beat out A&M or a Texas. They've done that the past couple of cycles on multiple prospects. So Drew Evers comes to mind. Of course, Papunga Katoa on the offensive line. They're trending the right way for Max Wright. Some of these other talented prospects that SMU has committed certainly were recruited by Texas A&M as well. So where does SMU go from here at the safety position? That's what we're going to focus on. And I want to highlight a player who I don't think gets enough love. And I just truthfully, I'm somebody that I want to bring towards our rankings team and say, hey, what's going on with Jaden Fields? JJ Fields out of Hutto High School, 6'1", 170 pounds, a really talented two-way player, plays both sides of the ball, and has that ability that, SMU covets to impact the game. You see him returning a punt, squeezing out of there, returning this to the house. He plays wide receiver. He plays defensive back. Scott Simons has had him in camp, worked him out, gone and seen him. You'll see a lot of these highlights be on both sides of the ball. This is the type of player that you want when you look at defensive backs. The best defensive backs in the country, and this is one of my points when evaluating Jaden Fields, play both sides of the ball. They have the ball skills to do it. They have the production to do it. And JJ Fields has that in spades, in my opinion. So a lot of these clips we're seeing on YouTube, if you're watching with us, are from the offensive side of the ball. But as we flip over to the defensive side of the ball, you see the range. He's kind of got a wiry frame, very similar kind of to maybe a younger Isaiah Wacobia coming out of high school. I just think when you get him with a Sean Griswold, can make a lot of things happen with his body and really add a lot of mass where he's going to be a presence in the box. He's going to have the ability to really, really impact a football game, and especially when he focuses on one side of the ball. So keep an eye on him. He's somebody SMU is all over for the most part, and they love to get him on board. So he's not, again, the highest ranked prospect in the world, but he is an absolute playmaker. Pick six here, I think, gets it done. And you see him creating separation too. It's just impressive what Jaden Fields can do on the field. I don't think he gets talked about enough, but programs like Baylor, like Texas A&M, like Texas Tech, Oklahoma, all have offered him. So we'll see if SMU can push that one across the finish line. It'd be a huge deal if they could. Before we break down a couple more prospects, I do want to remind you guys about our friends at Socorro Tequila and Los Charros on Hillcrest. Socorro Tequila, incredibly clean agave, yeast, and water. That's all it takes to create the award-winning tequila that they've created at Socorro Tequila. Appreciate their partnership with us at ontheponyexpress.com. You get free shipping on 3 bottles or more when you go online to socorrotequila.com to find out more about their tequila, their process, what they can do for you. But of course, it's a great chance to check out our friends at Los Charros as well on Hillcrest Avenue, final regular season home game for football. 8 a.m., get out there to Los Charles, enjoy some breakfast tacos, enjoy a mimosa, screwdriver, Bloody Mary, whatever. They'll have the patio rocking. And I tell you what, it's right there on Hillcrest. You can pull in, valet the car, and have a great time at Los Charros. We're finalizing some plans for Friday night as well. SMU does take on, I believe, I forget who it is, on Friday night for basketball. I know Tuesday night, I think they have Arkansas Pine Bluff. But on, they got Arkansas State. 8 p.m. Central, it is school night. It's a Fight for Literacy night. It's a great way to kick off your evening by going to Los Charros, have dinner before you head over to Moody, and maybe stay tuned to ontheponyexpress.com. Maybe they stay open late for us. Maybe we have a little post-game powwow with our friends at Los Charros on Hillcrest with our friends at Socorro Tequila. So they serve it there. Great margaritas. Appreciate Los Charros and Socorro for supporting us. A great place to enjoy a great tequila, Los Charros on Hillcrest Avenue at the Graduate Hotel. So check it out and support our friends at Socorro Tequila as well. Appreciate them. Had one of my friends that is a kind of tequila snob tell me that Socorro might have just jumped their favorite tequila brand. So that was yesterday. We were having a little celebration at the house, and Socorro was there. They had Sunrise tequilas available for those who wanted. And I said to my friend, I said, hey, you've got to try our new friends at Socorro. And he said, really? I said, yes, absolutely. They're an official sponsor of SMU Athletics. And he said, this might be my new favorite tequila. He drank it neat. I can't do it. Maybe I'm getting too old or whatever, but it is so clean, so pure, and he loved it. So I enjoy it on, in a margarita and all those types of things, the cocktails they have. But we're spreading the word. We're doing it. SMU is not straying far from DFW for safeties in this 2027 class that they're after. James Roberson, another top flight safety that SMU's after at Allen High School. You see him there pegged for TCU right now on the On3 prediction machine. He's one that I'm intrigued to watch and kind of see how it plays out, because SMU's had him on campus. They like him. They've hosted him. He's been to Missouri. He's been to TCU. He's been to A&M. He's been to, if I didn't say Houston, he's been to Houston. He's been kind of all over. Will SMU press for him, or will they go all in on a guy like Eli Houston out of North Crowley in the Fort Worth area? A really talented safety here as well, who is been to SMU a couple times now. He is on one of the best teams in Texas high school football. And you would love to see SMU start to get a little bit of a North Crowley pipeline going as they really, hit their stride. They won state last year. They're outstanding. I think Houston is one where Texas is involved, Nebraska is involved, Michigan, Texas Tech, TCU, and others. Keep an eye on him, though. He's another safety that felt like really needed to highlight here going into the kind of spring way too early preview pod that we're kind of doing on defense here. But SMU certainly involved with him and has hosted him a couple times now. So keep an eye on him. Before we go any further, do want to remind you guys as well about our friend Andy Ludicky, myperfectfranchise.net, myperfectfranchise.net. Make sure you visit that website, get the whole lowdown on how he can help you in the franchise ownership process, picking out the right franchise for you and your family, your time commitment, the amount of money you want to spend on doing this. This is that perfect opportunity for you and your family to pick out a legacy to leave your family, or just break free from the corporate rat race and pursue the American dream of business ownership. Andy Ludicky can help you out. So make sure you give him a call, 404-973-9901, or email him, andy@myperfectfranchise.net. You can tell him that On the Pony Express sent you, and it'd be a great time for him to break down franchise ownership, what it could mean for you and your family as you go through that process and see what works for you. Again, so many different options, so many different ways to navigate this. And so happy that we've got a guy like Andy Ludicky, a franchise consultant, and who offers his services for free to do this for you guys, to walk you through the process of franchise ownership and what it means for you. So appreciate his support of the On the Pony Express podcast. Let's wind down with this. SMU Basketball is 4-0 on the hardwood, and they have also gotten one of their newest additions all locked and loaded with the early signing period getting wrapped up for college basketball. I think it's wrapped up. If not, it's wrapped up for SMU. They did sign Cam Lomax, local prospect here, one of the top point guards in the country, out of Heritage High School in the Frisco area. A really, really intriguing guard who I think, can be that point guard of the future where you bring in a transfer next year to, make things work for this coming season in 26-27. And Cam Lomax can come in and learn behind that point guard, but held offers from LSU, Xavier, TCU, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, and others. He had visited Xavier, Houston, and Oklahoma State before committing to SMU. I told the story when he committed. I was right next to him on the football field when he committed to Andy Enfield and the staff. So pretty cool story. He and his family are excited that they're staying local, and we'll talk with Andy Enfield more this week, I'm sure, about Cam Lomax and what he brings to SMU basketball. So excited for that. We'll do also a breakdown with Adia Barnes at some point on her big haul, because SMU women's basketball signed quite the class over the course of a couple of days, getting them all in. So lots to break down there. Deserves its own podcast, truthfully, or majority of the pod. So we'll do that more in depth with Adia Barnes, as they signed 5 players on National Signing Day. They've got some other commitments out there, I think. So some things to keep an eye on in that respect. I am not as privy to the world of women's basketball recruiting, but they did get a flip. They got some of the top prospects locally. So keep an eye on how they do. They assembled an entirely new basketball team for this season, and are kind of hitting their rough stretch, having played Kansas State, who was receiving votes, and then at Texas Tech, they had a pretty disappointing, I would say, performance, losing by 31 points on the road to Tech. New era, new program that they're going to have to rebuild the whole roster, it seems like, once again. So we'll have Coach Barnes on the show to talk about that and more at a later date. But really just wanted to get you guys back in the fold with the recruiting side of things and get this one out. There's a lot more to cover on the 2027 recruiting front, and we are going to start in December, really kind of going position by position, more in depth, more getting you ready for the transfer portal window, which, for those of you who don't know, the transfer portal window is January 2nd through January 16th, and there is no more spring transfer portal window. So in theory, this will help you have your entire roster. This means that if a guy gets hurt in spring football, like Jonathan Jefferson did, you can't go out and replace him unless, and I think this is probably still true, unless it's a graduate transfer who graduates from a school in the spring and transfers. That is still a legal way to do it. I think. I don't see that changing, but that would be the only way. So keep an eye on that and how that impacts how aggressive teams are, and the holes that programs like SMU have to fill, and the urgency with which they move. I think SMU is going to be aggressive with its portal spots, but also recognize this is a team that is still built to win next year. They're going to have to replace the entire defensive line. They're going to have to do some quite the work at some positions. But the offense, really, I think, believe it or not, Kevin Jennings is one of the best. He's top 10. Let's see. He is going to be. He was the number 1 in passing yardage, total passing yardage quarterback at the Power 4 level going into last week. Obviously, SMU was on the bye. I don't think he's at the top of the Power 4 ranks anymore, but he is number 10 with 2,810 passing yards. Just an outstanding season for him. He will be back. So keep that in mind. Some great young running backs, great young receiver talent. They've got to replace some tight ends, no doubt. They've got to kind of plug a little bit in the offensive line. But this offense has a chance to be explosive next year. The defense has a lot to replace. So we'll do that kind of more pre-portal, transfer portal preview type of things for you guys as December unfolds, and we'll look ahead to 2027. So I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the On the Pony Express Recruiting Show. Appreciate our friends at Horn Legend for sponsoring it, Status Jet for sponsoring it, Northwest Insurance Agency, Thomas Auto Group, all of our friends for supporting us at On the Pony Express. So we appreciate all of you guys for watching. And of course, make sure you guys head to Los Charros this weekend and try some Socorro tequila. So hope you guys enjoyed this edition. I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at on3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.